We are now going to take it from trivia to a trivial bracket contest where we're trying to determine the best game seven of the last 50 or so years. I think cut it off at 1960, so that's some bad math, but about 60 years. But we have four matchups to talk about today, and we have our experts have already voted, and the internet has already voted, so all we need is the Bozman's votes. I've written my votes down, but we'll see what you match on and where you decide. Most of these matchups, you're going to make the decision.
Well,
Whatever you vote is going to do it.
I was looking at him this morning. You were kind enough to give me a little warning about it, and uh, there are, there's these are eight great matchups. Like, there's nothing here that you go, well, why is that in there?
Yeah, what?
There's some weird ones in that the game seven might not necessarily be the best game.
And that's where we didn't make rules on what are you deciding this on. Are you deciding it on the series or just game seven? I think it's a combination of both. And is it lead changes or upset or unexpected occurrences, something really strange happening, or the level of players in the game? And that's what I thought would make this fun, was just how are you going to decide what the better game was, not necessarily series, but certainly the strength of the series. If there's a series that's 3-0 and the other team comes back to win the next four, that's a big deal. Or overcome 3-1, or
It is a big deal.
win an 8-1 matchup or something like that in the
Absolutely.
playoffs. That's a huge thing.
Absolutely, and I hope if anyone out there is actually listening and kind of scoring at home, as Keith Oberman would say, uh, you're not tracking this so closely that you're seeing if I'm being consistent in my thinking between why I vote for one series or another.
Yeah, and you don't even have to be, which is a nice part about it. Is you give something more weight in one matchup than you do in the next. That's all right. You don't. We'll justify it for a couple minutes here, but that's about it. And I guess we'll start off right with a 1-8 matchup, a hockey matchup against a baseball matchup, and that's the 1991 World Series Game 7, which was the Twins beating the Braves in 10 innings. And that will go up against the 2010 NHL East quarterfinals, where Montreal was able to overcome Washington by a score of 2-1. And I'll let Dave take it away.
So I had to do a little research particularly on the hockey, to make sure what I was talking about, and it was fascinating. It was very, very back and forth game. As I was watching the highlights, they mentioned that Halak
Halak, yeah.
had been pulled and benched after game three, or pulled during game three, and then benched and then reinserted into the lineup, and he was standing on his head the whole game in the highlights. But great game back and forth. Ovechkin and the Caps ended up being denied once again. I think he finally broke through in the last year or two. I forget exactly what year the Caps finally won. And then for Montreal, you had a couple of former Devils there, right? Gianta and Gomez, and so forth. They get the first goal. Washington had a tying goal waved off, and then another goal was disallowed for Montreal that would have made it 2-0. They get a goal late, the Canadiens late in the third, to make it 2-0. Finally, officially, Washington gets a goal to make it 2-1 with about 2 minutes left, and then they pull the goalie. And there's this great moment where the Canadiens send one sailing down to the empty net, and Backstrom comes diving in and knocks it away.
That's my favorite.
That was awesome.
When somebody prevents the empty net goal, just total scramble, total panic, and yeah, you dive. I've seen guys slide into the net trying to do that.
Oh, it was an amazing effort. Tipped it away at the last second. It was great. So it kept their hopes alive. They had one more shot. That was a legitimate shot on goal, and then just kind of ran out of time at the end there. And Montreal,
Now, was that series 3-1 Washington at one point?
I I believe so.
Because
And
Washington was the higher seed as well. And that was they said, this will finally be Washington's time to get by Montreal to get and no.
yeah, they didn't get it done. They didn't get it done. So that was a great playoff hockey matchup. Your points against it in my mind because there's a quarterfinal matchup. Not in the versus the matchup they're seeing in this bracket, the game 7 of the World Series. If that was going up against the wild card game in 2016, who cares, right? But that would be kind of more even in terms of gravity. So, in my mind, that the hockey, as great as that game was, exciting as that was, going up against the Braves and the Twins, that epic Game 7. Jack Morris and John Smoltz, two Hall of Fame pitchers starting. Not a lot of scoring opportunities for either team. There was some great defense, some good double plays. The Braves had a chance in the top of the 5th.
That was the base running screw up, I guess. We defined it as well as possible, thinking a ball was going to be caught and maybe preventing a chance to score.
Yep. And then they strikeout looking by Gant to end the threat there. In the top of the 8th, they had another chance with Pendleton leading off for a double. Lonnie Smith singled them over to third. And then they walked the bases loaded, and Bream, the immortal Sid Bream, hits into a 3-2-3 double play to end the inning. And so that ended that threat. The Twins threatened in the bottom of the 8th, and again in the bottom of the 9th. In the 8th, Herbeck lines out to second base for a double play, and that inning, and that was the end of Smoltz's night. Right before that.
And who came in? Pena came in?
Stanton came in first.
Okay, Stanton.
And then when he got in trouble in the 9th, Pena came in. And then it's interesting that they had Stanton come in and then issue the intentional walk, which I never quite understood why he managed to do that. But there you go. And similarly, Pena came in and had the intentional walk and then got the strikeout to end the bottom of the 9th. And in the bottom of the 10th, Gladden with the double sacked him over. They walk Puckett and Knobloch, and then Gene Larkin singles him home. Epic game, and that game, as much as anything else, Morris going the distance, in my mind, makes Morris a Hall of Fame pitcher. I mean, he was a great pitcher. He had a great career. You could argue, and I have argued with you as to whether or not he really was a Hall of Famer. If you're going to put him in, it's games like this that put him over the top.
Oh, sure. If you're going to put him in, you point to this game.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to put him in, you're going to say, well, that's just one game. That's just a playoff game. Now, he had many other games like this
clutch
in
games.
Big situations.
His career numbers were not what other pitchers' career numbers were. I subscribe to, and I believe him when he says that he pitched to the situation in a way that most pitchers today don't. Most pitchers today are told, get a lot of strikeouts, keep the guys off base, pitch as hard as you can for as long as you can, and then we'll put in the next guy.
And perfectly content to go 6 innings.
Yep. In those days, Morris was one of those throwback pitchers. He was, if you gave him a 5-0 lead, he would let it up a little bit and make it and start pitching again when it was 5-3. And perfectly content to do that. In a 1-0 game, he pitched this, a 0-0 game. He pitched his heart out until it was decided. So the two Hall of Fame pitchers, all the great plays, and an epic World Series Game 7. I'm going to pick that one too.
Yeah, and if you want to think how much the game has changed, a guy last week got his 150th win, and looking at the list, there may not be another pitcher to have 150 wins for a couple years.
Yeah.
A couple of the guys in range right now are either injured or just not pitching well. Rick Porcello got to one. Rick Porcello got to 150, and you're like, who's going to be next?
Yeah, he's got. Actually, I was thinking of him as a chance to get to 200, and he's become. I mean, he was always at best an above average pitcher. I don't know, exactly how or why he won a Cy Young award a couple years ago, but and talking about, I guess he's from Chester, from where I live. So shout out to him. Although is everything you look at online says he's from Morristown, but we all know he's from Chester. And all credit due there, but to the local guy making good. But he's not a great pitcher.
No,
he's a good pitcher when he's going well, and the last couple of years he hasn't been going well. So
officially, you're voting for
the Twins over the Braves.
Well, and that is enough to take that one into the next round. They needed your support. They didn't have it without you.
Okay.
One of our experts, Kevin Hall, decided to vote for the hockey, but that kept it close enough to need your support. But got your support and will advance. And we have a couple Red Sox games in the following matchup. So we'll talk about the 2003 Red Sox. They're a 5 seed here in the draw, and they lost to the Yankees by a score of 6-5 in 11 innings. And that's going up against an even more recent basketball game, the 2016 Conference Finals, where Golden State was able to get the best of the Thunder, 96-88.
Yeah, in the Western Conference Finals there. Again, that's a little bit of, well, I guess that's even footing in this case,
yes.
right? You got an ALCS versus the Western Conference
They're both
Finals,
in the semis, so to speak.
Right,
yeah.
right. So that's fair enough, and that's very puts these on both on great terms. 2003 obviously was the continuation of the curse.
Yes,
and Aaron Effin Boone in the walk-off home run, and Grady Little in the debacle, and the leaving Pedro in there, and Who's Your Daddy, and all that great stuff. As an avid Yankee hater for those years. And I believe I've matured a little bit to now just be a Yankee disliker.
What a terrible thing to say about yourself.
Yes, mellowed in my medium age. And they continue to compete. So
yeah, that was a toughie for me at least. Yeah,
no, I agree.
That was a toughie, but we'll have the baseball move on there. And while we're talking Red Sox, we may a happier time for Red Sox fans in our third matchup today. We got some more hockey, the 2019 hockey first round, where the Sharks were able to upset the Vegas Golden Knights 5-4 in overtime. And we have another Red Sox-Yankee matchup in the 2004 ALCS, where the Red Sox had 10 runs against the Yankees 3. So you can discuss either or both of those. Take it away, Dave.
Thanks, Mike. So I'm going to start with the hockey, and I'm watching the game and thinking, why is this game here? I didn't remember the game until it got to the key point, and you know what I'm thinking of. So Vegas starts out, they get a goal towards the end of the first period to go up 1-0. They get a goal right before the halfway point in the second period to go 2-0. And then I think they got another goal in the second period to go up 3-0. And then a little bit less than I think halfway through the third period, you had the major 5-minute major, 5-minute major. So
how could you do such a thing?
San Jose ends up on a 5-minute power play and scores 4 power play goals. And I want to say, watching the highlights again, Fleury was standing on his head for the entire first 50 minutes of this game.
Yes.
He was making every save. And they got some great shots off on him. And he was just stoning them. And then 3-1, 3-2. And you just go, oh my God. And suddenly it's 4-3. And then with 47 seconds left, I think it was 47.
I always like a good goalie pull the score here.
Get the empty netter and
right.
They pull the goalie, I should say,
yeah.
and get the tying goal with their own net empty to make it tied, and then back and forth they go in overtime, and the Sharks end up getting a goal just before the end of the first overtime to win it. So amazing game, and the theater and so forth was unparalleled. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so controversial. The call, did it deserve a major? In that situation, did it deserve a major? Did the better team win? You can go back and forth all day long.
Was the penalty deserved? I'll say yes.
Yeah, it was definitely a penalty.
Definitely a penalty, and definitely, in my mind, a major penalty.
Okay.
Did the better team win? Probably not.
Yeah.
But the better team did something really stupid.
Yeah.
And that's why they didn't win.
And I think I come down on the same side as you. I hate to be uncontroversial here. You know, we ought to battle some more. But, you know, I mean, he put the guy in his head. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's a major. It's a major. And if you do it with 10 minutes left in the third, then you got to suck it up and make that penalty, you know, get your best power play killers out there and kill the power play without giving up 4 goals in 5 minutes.
For anyone that was watching hockey last night or yesterday afternoon, it started that way and turned out to be 5 overtime game. So I believe, and I could be wrong on this, that the third and fourth overtimes did not have a penalty. In the fifth overtime, they shot one that went over the barrier and into the stands. No people there, but that's a delay of game, and you can't do anything about it but call it.
Yeah.
So it got called, and it was the right call, and you know, and it was the right call here. This major was the right call. So
yeah.
What are you going with here?
So I mean the matchup is going up against is not really there for Game 7. Obviously, you know, 10-3.
Oh yeah, we didn't really talk about the 10-3 game.
We had talked about this series. I think
in
the previous shows
to get here.
It's the Dave Roberts play in Game 4. It's the epic comeback from. Is it the second series ever from a 3-0 comeback in any of the 4 major sports? I think there was one other one.
There may be one other one in hockey.
I think it was a hockey series that was 3-0 down, and that's it. It's this one and that one, you know, to erase the curse and reverse the curse, I guess is the proper terminology, and finally erase the Babe Ruth, you know, 1918 whatever. In the most unlikely way possible, to start that rally with the stolen base and come around and just continue it all the way. I think with the history there, and again the players and the 2 teams involved, you have to take the Red Sox Yankees to advance here. Epic hockey game. It's not, you know, in another matchup I might take that, but. You know, Red Sox, again, the curse, the 2 teams, everything we just talked about with 2003 it's mostly the same teams here, right? We talked about, we looked up to make sure that Grady Little had been fired after the season, and that was Francona's first season as skipper of the Red Sox, and you know, it turned out he was a pretty good manager.
Just fair.
He does okay.
Still going pretty strong.
Yeah, exactly.
What, he missed some games for health reasons recently?
I don't recall that. I know, you know, obviously he left for Cleveland a number of years ago, and he's done very well there. Came close to finally ending their long drought a couple of years ago in that epic series against the Cubs. I don't recall. I think he may have, but it doesn't.
I thought he was still there this year, but he missed a few for either his health or someone in the family's health. But I shouldn't say more because I don't know more. But.
So I'm taking the Red Sox.
You're taking the Red Sox, and you said if the hockey was up against something else, you may take it, and you may have that chance because the hockey is going to advance.
All right.
It is going to advance as our experts both pick the hockey. The internet picked the hockey. I picked the hockey.
Wow. All right.
So
I can't find, obviously Game 7 for the Red Sox, that series, that was not a great game. It was not a great game, but it was a great series.
I'll argue back that I was rooting against the Yankees. I was still never comfortable. I was still thinking the Red Sox are going to screw this up somehow.
Even in Game 7, up 10-3.
they were flirting around with bringing Pedro in, so there was some suspense there, but it was artificial. It was suspense I was making up. Wasn't
I
really
do
a
remember
suspense.
that. I do remember that. There was a point where it was, and then the Red Sox, I think, put a couple more runs on the board.
There was a
late,
Damon home run that
really. You're like,
really
okay, that's it. Okay, now we can breathe.
Yeah. Good. And one more matchup to talk about. We got to go back in time for one of these games, but one was just last year. And we got the 2019 World Series with the the Houston Astros losing to the Washington Nationals, our favorite team, and the 1981 Eastern Conference Basketball Finals with the Celtics beating the 76ers 91-90. So take it away with your opinion.
Sure. So starting with the baseball, 6-2 was your final. It was probably, I think it was a little bit closer than that. The Astros scored the first 2 runs. Bottom of the 5th, Gurriel gets a home run, and then bottom of the 7th, I think they got another run.
They were doing their silly dances
doing their silly dances, and it was Rendon and then Kendrick in the top of the 7th. I'm sorry, the 5th. Well, the 5th made it 2-0, and then in the top of the 7th, they got the Nationals.
I was more talking the Nationals doing their little foot dances or whatever.
So Rendon hits a home run, then they get a walk, and Kendrick hits a home run, and suddenly it's 3-2. They get another run in the top of the 8th, and 2 more in the top of the 9th. So end of 7, it's 3-2. That's a pretty good game 7. And they salted it away for the first championship in Washington/Montreal history, going back to 50 years at that point. So
one of the stadiums I've been to, Montreal,
the Big O, great fun place to watch a game. I remember getting front row seats in the outfield for $1 Canadian back in the day.
And what was the
about 75 cents?
75. All right. I was going to say, what was the translation? What word am I looking for? What was the conversion
rate? Yes. No, great fun place.
Not the translation rate. I knew where I was going with.
Yes. So and you look on for the Nationals. Scherzer starts the game. He went 5 and pitched decently, but not great.
Yeah.
Corbin came in relief and pitched 3 brilliant innings.
And he's just gone from there. He's still pitching.
Really well. And they're both obviously still great pitchers. That's the anchor of that team, although they're struggling a little bit to start this year. But we'll talk a little bit more baseball in a minute. But,
they beat up on the Mets, but anyone can do that.
Anyone can do that. So I think time will tell, but that's a great team there, and the Nationals were well built. They're still well built, I think, and have a chance to continue to be a very competitive team on into the near future. Hard to say when a team's just going to pull the plug and reload at some point in these days. Now compare that with the Eastern Conference Finals in '81.
I think you saw him bolting,
no.
but
I did see him pulling up lame or something, so that's not dissimilar. And I hope he's not. He's always been a little bit flaky, and so I worry that he's not maybe a lot flaky, and maybe he could just not be completely well. So I hope he's well. I wish him the best. For whatever it's worth, I will always be grateful that he came to the team and helped us get to the World Series in 15. That was such a fun year.
But that doesn't make the contract worth it or it okayed.
I don't think he didn't do anything on purpose. You knew what he had. There's a reason why a guy of his talent was on 4 teams in 4 years.
Yes.
He's one of the most physically talented baseball players I've ever seen.
He's a bit loopy.
And then, we talked about it before the season. I don't know if we talked about it, on the air, so to speak here, but, Syndergaard goes down for the year with the Tommy John surgery. They let Wheeler walk. Now and you're relying on DeGrom
Stroman
and Stroman,
Waka.
and then two guys that you picked up off the
Yeah.
scrap heap in Porcello and Waka, and they never even sniffed, as far as I'm aware, trying to bring in another veteran, even on a minor league contract. And there are still a bunch of them out there who I would think have to be worthwhile to at least have in and see if they can still throw, instead of turning to Robert Gesellman or what's his name, Lockett, Walker Lockett.
If they're going to be this mediocre, is it worth it?
To why not?
Well, I kind of agree, because in a short series, you throw DeGrom out there twice, and you got a chance of winning it.
And even if they continue to stink, I've always thought that a great way to rebuild your team is to try to pick up guys off the scrap heap and hope you catch lightning in a bottle, and then trade them to somebody who needs them, and get a prospect or two. What do you show me? I can't read it from
3-0 Washington in the first.
There you go. That's my boy Gesellman.
still
one
going.
thing I have harped upon to you, I don't, again, and many other people, is that a mediocre starter can make a decent relief pitcher, but I have never seen a mediocre relief pitcher become a decent starter, and that's what they're asking of Gesellman.
Yeah.
And he's never been he's been spots in streaks. He's been impressive as a reliever, but over the course of a season, he ends up with a 3.5 to 4.5 ERA, and that's not good. That's not a great relief pitcher. It's not even a good relief pitcher. He's got good stuff. And Seth Lugo, was a mediocre starter who's turned into one of the best relief pitchers in baseball.
That's a bit strong, but okay.
No, I mean, I'll stand by that. I mean, let me say this. He's the only guy in the Mets bullpen that I'm happy to see come in the game.
Okay. Yeah. I'm hoping Betances is something, but I'm hoping.
Yeah.
And
Diaz, I hold my breath every pitch.
Every time. You have to every time.
I mean, he's pitching well, knock on wood, so far this year. I think his ERA is around 2.5. He's had, the one blow up. And maybe, in a 60-game season, that's going to look ugly, because, one or two runs when you're only going to pitch, 30 innings or something like that is going to stand out.
Give me a couple positive things about the team so far.
Conforto's playing well. McNeil's doing what he does. He's going to be a 330 hitter, and so forth.
He's leaving a lot of runners on base, though, McNeil.
Yeah, that I don't worry about him.
I hope that stuff evens out, but no, I don't worry about him, and I don't worry about Conforto.
And it's 30 at bats into his major league career, but Andres Jimenez looks like he could potentially be a decent player.
I'll make you GM. You trade him
for what?
Gary Sanchez.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Gary Sanchez is not a great catcher, but they need a catcher.
I know we both would like to see them go after Real Muto, but will they?
With a new owner, they
with a new owner, they might.
With the Wilpons, no, not going to happen.
Right.
And I didn't love a lot of the moves that Brody has made. As a Mets fan, you kind of talk yourself into a lot of them.
Well, you know the Mets system better than I do. There's someone behind Jimenez at middle infield, right?
Yeah, Morosino, I think his name is Ronnie Morosino. He's a kid. I think he had gotten up to low A or maybe high A last year.
So I'm saying, if this guy looks like something, not he looks like something, so the Met thing to do is get rid of him. If Cano's playing and money tends to play, this guy's not going to play a ton. Maybe he's more valuable in a trade.
And Rosario's been off to another slow start.
Could he walk once? Him walking happens about as much as Ben Simmons hitting a 3.
It's, yeah.
He doesn't walk.
He doesn't have one this season. He doesn't know how to bunt.
No.
He doesn't know how to run. He's got tremendous speed. He doesn't know how to steal a base. The
two of them work well fielding together.
Yeah, yeah. I still believe in his talent. I just think somebody needs to sit him down and teach him how to play baseball. Rosario.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He seems to just rely on his talent and not have any real clue how to play fundamental baseball. A guy like him could get, to borrow a phrase from Crash Davis, at one bunt hit a week, and it's the difference between a 250 hitter and a 300 hitter.